This is episode 300 of Super League Pod, where we find out what stinks in Castleford. And no, the answer's not everything. What New York nickname is going to stick? What did Tommy Makinson fucking know? And where is Jordan Rankin now? Two lots of Challenge Cup quarterfinals, League One return, and yet more controversy on and off the field. It may be our 300th weekly show, but it's just another week in rugby league. So get strapped in. It's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 300 of the Super League Pod. It's a milestone, David.
It is. I feel privileged, Mark, to be on the 300th show.
Yeah, well, a lot has happened since episode 200. So it's, I guess, one, we can't all get together and do it in person like a few of us did back at episode 200. And two, we've probably done roughly about 70 other episodes of either shorts or the very occasional SLP debate club episodes. So really, 300, the 300th incarnation of the regular weekly show isn't quite the same.
Don't spoil it.
Milestone in a way, but still, you know, not many sports podcasts get this far. I don't think. Even maybe we're more tolerant of having lost listeners and not replace them.
I reckon you should go back and work out just how many words you've had to type out over the years you've been doing this, Mark, because 300 podcasts is a hell of a lot of words.
It's a lot of copying and pasting, David. I'm not gonna. That's why we get. That's why when we do the news, we give credit to the other people, because if we didn't, they might have a go at us for just copying and pasting.
Anyway, congratulations, Mark, on the 300th episode that you'll have been involved in and have led us to. And I know I still find, when I'm not on the show, I know I find the show every bit as much fun as I always have done. So here's to the next 300.
Yeah, we shall raise a glass to that for sure. And thanks to whilst we're doing it, then thanks to everyone who does still listen, or new listeners, or everyone who gets involved. You know, basically everyone who tweets us, everyone who listens, everyone who sends us fan reviews on the matches or the news, all of that stuff. It's all if we stopped getting fan reviews, then that's when the show would have to stop. So yeah, but thanks to everyone who's been on any part of this journey with us to 300 regular episodes. David, do you want to give a big shout out to one of the people who supported us for some considerable time on that road to 300, and that's our sponsor?
Yes, indeed. This episode is sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop. Find a wide range of toys, gifts, rugby league birthday cards and more at Rob's Toy Shop on eBay. Visit stores.ebay.co.uk//Rob's Toy Shop. /Rob's Toy Shop. And on any orders over £5, you can earn 5% cash back, and also 1% of your order will go to the SLP coffers by putting SLP discount at the checkout.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks to our sponsor. So what have we got coming up on this week's show then? Well, do you know the news story that gained the most comments and traction in terms of fan reviews? In fact, the only news story that anyone dropped in any fan reviews on really related to the women's game. So when we get to the news, we're going to start with the women's game, which just shows the profile that's building there, that people really wanted to get in touch and comment about it. It's fantastic news. Some other little bits and pieces of news, mostly around people making some surprise signings in the lower levels of the of the leagues, but there's a couple of disappointing stories to go through in the middle of that. We've got the Challenge Cup quarterfinals, David. We'll have very different feelings about those when we get to those later on.
Yep, indeed we will.
And that's not just on the men's side, that's the women's side as well. So we've got 2 lots of Challenge Cup quarterfinals to go through. Round 5 of the Championship, the return of League One, and the NRL Brit Pick stats as well. So we've got plenty to get to before we do our predictions. And the episode 300 quiz, David, which is going to be your first quiz.
Yes, my first ever quiz. And had I really put some thought into this, I'd have probably done one based on the 300 other episodes, Mark. But I haven't. I've selected the Challenge Cup for our quiz this week just to get you warmed up.
I think that's fantastic. No, I had contemplated slipping in an extra quiz around sort of SLP nicknames and, do you know your Uncle Two Skulls from your Zany Winehouse, your old school nicknames to your new nicknames that are across the years of SLP.
That would have been a good one, actually. Maybe you should do that next week now.
But they're it. I can't think of too many other ones that we've got. We've got the moral vacuum, haven't we? That's been a staple for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he played well actually this week.
Yeah. I suppose Judas would be one, wouldn't it? The amount of times it's been read out in fan reviews over the years.
Yes, that's true. I'll have a think actually. I'll drop you a note with a few others because I'm sure there are some others.
Do you know? It's just because I forget now. My ability to remember what we talk about on the show. Sometimes by the end of the recording, when I'm coming up with what we're putting into the peek behind the curtain, guys, I write the intro after we've recorded the show. But when I'm coming up with what to put in there, some weeks I forget. Like I miss really important stuff that we've talked about some weeks. Anyway.
Yeah, it won't get better as you get older, Mark. I can promise you that.
Well, it doesn't get better now. I have more responsibilities, so yeah. No such luck. Okay, we will move away from this rambling intro and celebration of 300 episodes and move into the news.
So, York City Knights ladies announced 7 new signings from rival Super League sides on Friday. 19-year-old Olivia Wood and 21-year-old former Super League winner Savannah Andrade both joined the Knights from Bradford Bulls. England internationals Rhiannon Marshall, Kelsey Gentles, Tasmin Renouf and Sinead Peach all moved over from the Castleford Tigers, where they played under Knight's new Director of Women's Rugby, Lindsay Anfield. York Community Foundation worker Grace Field is the other player to join the Knights, also moving over from Castleford. And we have some views on this, Mark.
Yeah, David Hunter got in touch. He said, good news for the evening out of this competition. The York Club is building in both the men's and the women's, and I hope that continues. And Karsten got in touch and said, if the male players leave the Tigers too, the club falls apart faster than skyscrapers in New York. Yeah, there is a conspiracy theory to this detonation of the Castleford Tigers, isn't there? With the off the field exits on the men's side following the off the field exit on the women's side, and that coaching departure has led to some of the star players leaving. So let's see if the same happens on the men's side of things.
Well, there's already some rumours doing the rounds, aren't there, Mark, about potential departures over the pen Warrington. So
yeah,
let's see. Fat Boy Rob's got a very strong view on this, I think.
He said, Rob said, 2 months ago, Cass released Lindsay Anfield to concentrate on her teaching, in quote marks. 2 weeks later, she chips up at the York Steelers. 6 weeks later, York signed 5 players from Cass, including 4 internationals and 2 of the Bulls' top players 2 days before a Challenge Cup quarter-final. 2 days after that, they beat Wigan, who would have nilled them last week. looking like they've been training together for months. It fucking stinks. It may be good for the women's game as it evens things up a bit. In brackets, I'd rather they took a couple of players from Leeds, Wigan than Saints. Close brackets. But the RFL need to get a grip and tighten up the rules to stop this happening again. Did I mention it fucking stinks?
Some strong views from Rob there, but very understandable, I think, in the circumstances. Nevertheless, good to see York taking the women's game very seriously.
Yeah, I think what I would say is it's not like Cass, Leeds, and to a lesser extent Wigan and Saints didn't take a lot of players from other clubs when they chipped up. Obviously, Saints was kind of an evolution of the That O'Heath side, wasn't it? Really. And a couple of those ladies went to play for Wigan that were Wigan girls who had gone to that side because they were the best side in the area at that time. But then when the two clubs got involved, Cass took a few players from Featherstone, when they started up, and Leeds took a lot of players as well out of those areas, out of Bradford when the Bradford all-conquering unbeaten side of the first Women's Super League season was torn apart by Leeds. So I think it's part of the evolution and progress of where we're going to get to before things have evened out. And I think, whilst I understand Rob's point that maybe some rules need to be thought about a bit more, because it's kind of hovering somewhere between the community game and the semi-professional game now, the women's game, isn't it? With clubs now looking to put some structures in place to help the ladies players, if not obviously formal contracts and pay to play sort of things. But I think it's, broadly speaking about, I think it's a positive, because you're talking about what was the Big Four now being the Big Five. Maybe it's actually just going to be the Big Two, and Leeds and St Helens will dominate for some time, whilst Wigan, Cass and York all kind of vie for those other two places in what was the top four. But I think it's positive that there has been a bit of a spreading out of the talent. What we're seeing in the women's game is so many talented young players. I mean, look at the age of some of those players that we've talked about already. Tamsin Reynolds, a teenager, I think, or maybe 20. Sinead Peach is only 21, 22. These are young players as well. So there's lots of young players getting exposure at the moment, and as they all get better, more experienced, and inspire the next generation along, we're going to have a lot of young players that to spread out through the teams then. So I'm happy with it. I think it's a positive overall. I don't know what
I agree with that. I do think there's something slightly I can understand Rob's viewpoint about a coach moving and then taking players from the club. It never leaves a good taste in the mouth when that happens, does it? But anyway, there we go. In other news, London Broncos have confirmed a new women's team that will be formed this season to participate in the inaugural Betfred Women's Super League South. The 6-team competition will feature the current British Army squad and 5 new women's teams: Bradford Tigers, Cardiff, Cornish Rebels, Golden Ferns and the Broncos. The tournament will run alongside the existing Betfred Women's Super League, Championship and League One competitions in the north. The 6 teams will be split into regional conferences. The Broncos will join Bedford Tigers and the British Army in the east, while Golden Ferns, Cardiff and Cornish Rebels will contest the Western Conference.
It's more positive news on the sort of spread and development of the women's game, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely is. Absolutely is. It's all positive stuff.
I think a big note to this is that Cardiff team. That's going to give a kind of centralised focus for the Welsh women, as they sort of aim on closing the gap and becoming a regular competitive international side, and then the fact that the structure here is already planning to break into areas where the men's game hasn't quite been able to, like, you know, the Cornish Rebels. There's a great Southwest scene that we've talked about on this show. You know, if we're talking about episode 300, you know, we've got our friends at the Sharks and at the Trojans and obviously at the Rebels as well.